Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggle. Here we are, just a few days into the calendar year of 2024, and I feel like there is a key word that is bubbling up to the surface in the comic book hobby. That is the word of accountability. Accountability for our comic companies, accountability for our dealers, accountability for buyers, for sellers, for collectors, accountability across all walks of the comic book hobby, including social media people like YouTubers, like myself. I mean, here in this wacky, weird world of funny books that is completely unregulated yet produces billions of dollars in secondary market value, the only thing that we can actually do is hold each other accountable to have the best possible community and hobby that we can actually have. Which leads us to the topic at hand. Big news coming out of GoCollect here, updating a new feature that they are adding to their website that could potentially help fraudulent activity in the future. So in this video, I want to go through this news, talk about this new feature, but also give a little bit of concern and pushback to what they're actually saying here, because there is a small element to this that I'm not so sure that we want to implement, but I will save that for later on in the video. And then also hold one industry's feet to the fire a little bit, asking them the question, what accountability do they have to all of this? But of course, before I get into the video, if you guys could like, comment, subscribe, I would appreciate it. Helps support the channel doing those things. But let's get into this video here today. Now, what you have in front of you is the Instagram post from GoCollect, a statement that came out earlier today. I want to read through the statement so that you guys can get up to speed, and then I want to talk about some of the nuanced points here. GoCollect says, GoCollect has been recording high-resolution scans of nearly every graded comic book sale in the marketplace for many years. We have also been logging the accompanying CGC certification number whenever available. Saving this data has been imperative towards enhancing the collecting experience, but we now find ourselves in a unique position moving forward. To complement the efforts of CGC in cracking down on fraudulent activity, GoCollect is internally discussing the implementation of a new functionality on our website that will allow you to search any CGC graded collectible and photo, match it against all previous sales with the same certification number in our database. With proper diligence, we will remove the threat of purchasing any collectible that is not what it appears to be. We are no longer just a pricing guide. We are equally committed to making this community as safe and enjoyable as possible. Now, there's added context here that I'm going to table for a second, but just to recap here, GoCollect, the pricing guide, was one of the most important elements to catching the current CGC scam, because they are the only pricing guide that actually has high-res images of the sales data. It's really, GoCollect that allowed us to actually compare books and see that they weren't the same books in those holders. So now it seems as though they're implementing this feature, which is going to allow you to search CGC cert numbers within their website, and then you'll be able to actually, see, okay, this book has sold 4 different times, and effectively you'll be able to compare the images back to back to back to make sure that there's no funny business going on. So shout out to them for adding this feature. I feel like that's going to be a net positive overall. I mean, why not just be able to search a cert number and have all the images go back to back? But there's one little element here that I think is interesting, and this is what I want to go to next. We have been keeping a very close eye on this story as it develops. It is our responsibility to remain accountable, there's that word, to this community through whatever means possible. With full access to all historic sales of any given CGC certification number and the accompanying high-resolution images, we feel we can reinstill the confidence of collectors who have been affected by these unfortunate events. Any fraudulent sales can be reported directly to GoCollect for removal from our database. We will update the community once we are ready to deploy action. Thank you to everyone who's demonstrated integrity while moving forward. Now, this one statement right here, I think, is the most interesting one, and maybe is the one that I would want to raise a little bit of a flag for. And this actually relates to something else I want to talk about later on in the video, with some of the removals of the books related to the CGC list that came out. Now, they're talking about here that any fraudulent sales could be reported directly to them and then be removed from their database. But I would almost wonder if that's something we actually don't want to see happen, because as it currently exists, the only way that there's any historical record of some of these sales that have occurred was because they didn't remove the fraudulent sales. Like if we enter a place where, we have a purge of, the fraudulent activity that has been happening, then we're not going to have, a wayback machine. We're not going to have any, paper trails or any evidence to pull from if there's future scams in the collectible hobby. And let's not kid ourselves. There's, of course, going to be many future scams in this hobby. That is the nature of this beast. I mean, shout out to Reserved Investments, who I had on my channel in the SwaggleCast series. He always talks about, this is an unregulated market. I mean, the collectible world has billions of dollars wrapped up in it. There's always going to be shenanigans going on. And this is why we can't have nice things. This is why we can't, get rid of, the faulty sales or the weird things. And it's probably super annoying for a company like GoCollect to have all these sort of junk sales and weird, mishaps that, clog up their database and stuff like that. But, at the end of the day, we kind of need it, and this is true of GPA as well. GPA purges all of the weird sales, the wrong sales, and as they should be, because, their value prop is that they're trying to get the best, actual accurate fair market value assessment of all books. So they're going to actually curate, some of the weird sales that don't look right. But at the same time, maybe it's those weird sales that we actually need to see in order for us to tell if there's, some kind of fraudulent behavior going on. So this is one that I would sort of raise my hand with and sort of say, hey, GoCollect, this is awesome. I'm really, really happy you're adding in this feature. I think it's going to be a tremendous positive for the hobby overall. But at the same time, maybe it's really important that you keep, all of the stuff in there, or if at least fraudulent things have been reported to GoCollect, like maybe there's still some way to view it so that, you can cross-reference your notes and things like that if it actually becomes a bigger scam altogether. Now, kind of related to that, I wanted to jump ahead to the CGC list that they put out. Now, obviously this has been talked about to death by a lot of, different places, 350 comic books, et cetera, et cetera. One of the things I thought was interesting, and I made mention of this in, a small mention in one of my previous videos, of how some of the books now are getting the slash through line through them, meaning they're being taken off the list. And there was a particular one down here, these Journey into Mystery 83s. Now on the forums, it was actually discussed that these books had gone through a couple auction houses, and those auction houses had come out and said that, they looked into it and it turns out that the books were A-okay and that CGC can remove them from the list. But I found that to be really strange that these companies could just look at it and say, yeah, no fraudulent activity has occurred. These books are fine, without, actually having the books go back to CGC and being opened up and inspected. And it's even more strange that CGC would just cross them off the list. If CGC is putting out this list, like even if these books are in fact okay and haven't been tampered with, I mean, can you really cross them off, before they actually go through your hands? You guys crack them out, you inspect them, you see that there's no coupons cut or resto or some weird stuff going on. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's good enough just to look at old image scans, of like auction houses and say, yeah, hey, this book looks like the same, it's sold here and it's sold here and it looks like the same book. I mean, we don't really know that. I mean, if CGC is going to put out this list of 350 books, you would think that these books actually have to get sent in and cracked out in order for them to have their, quote unquote, scarlet letter removed from the certain number that is in question. And of course, this goes into like the bigger thing, which is what I was kind of inferring when I first did the video about, where did the list come from? Do we really think that there's not going to be more books coming out? How do we know that these aren't all the books that have been, tampered with? I mean, the reality is we don't. And, really it would make a lot of sense for them to sort of just release, every single book that the scammer has, submitted through CGC or reholder through CGC. But come on, we know what it is. I mean, there's no way that CGC is actually going to release that list. I mean, if the scammer has been selling comic books for 10 years, then, it wouldn't shock me if, that person has tens of thousands of comic books that have gone through the doors of CGC. And I feel like that's probably one of the reasons why they didn't just blanket release, every single book he's ever sent, because frankly, if they came out with a list that said tens of thousands of suspected books, I mean, you guys know what it is. It would be an absolute shit show. So for now, we have these 350 comic books to look at. And at the very least, we should be looking at them. None of this like, hey, let's cross out this book because it doesn't seem affected. None of this GoCollect removing fraudulent sales and things like that. I mean, shout out to them. They're doing a good thing. I don't mean to pick on them, but, let CGC do this internal investigation if in fact they actually are going to do the internal investigation. And, this is maybe, a topic of discussion for another video. But frankly, I mean, I don't really know, guys, if we're ever going to really get, the answers that we all hope that we're going to get. I'm sure CGC might update us a couple times with some, stuff coming out of this case, but at the same time, are we really ever going to know the ultimate truth? Probably not, So hopefully, they're doing this investigation. And again, I'll refer back to that word of accountability. Again, the only thing that we can do is to hold CGC accountable and make sure that they do as much as they can to make this all right. And part of holding them accountable is making sure that, hey, get these books back, open them up, actually inspect them. Don't just take people's words that, hey, this book is okay, and also, make sure that you explain to us where the list came from. Are these the only books? Are there more books? Did you go through the scammer submissions? Are there more scammers? All of these things, again, the key word of the year so far is accountability. Now, I want to finish out the video with a little bit of a call out of accountability. To me, this really is the biggest one because here we have this billion-dollar company, doing a private internal investigation, which, hey, that's great and all. But at the same time, who are going to be the people asking the questions that represent, the interests of the collector and not just, CGC and CCG as a companies. And this is kind of where I need to sort of call out, a little bit of the media. Where is the comic book media in all of this? How is it that people in their comic book rooms going live on YouTube and forum detectives, have to go through the annals of GoCollect and GPA and do all this detective work themselves to put out all this information to give to this company for them to do an internal investigation? Like, how is a Darkhawk collector like myself effectively, a journalist compared to the actual quote unquote pro journalists that are supposed to be holding this company to the fire? Like, how is this not the biggest story in all of comic books? Why is it that when I search CGC Tamper and I go to news, there's literally only been 4 articles that have come out in this entire, story ever since it's broken? And 2 of these articles, frankly, is like just the PR statement from CGC itself. I mean, literally, this article is a copy and paste of CGC's statement, which you can read right here on their own website. Like, clearly this is just, them doing PR for the, entire company. So again, I bring up this word accountability one more time. I ask the media, comic book media. I mean, frankly, what is comic book media at this point? Like, how many people go to comicbook.com to actually read about comic books? I mean, Screen Rants, all of this stuff is movie websites at this point. So there really is no comic book media. But at the same time, you would like to think that there were real journalists here, doing real investigative research, actually reporting on this story, asking questions, asking for media statements, not just YouTubers that sit in their comic book room, licking floors for entertainment purposes, as he talks about, comic book indexes going up and down. I mean, that's where this has actually gone. These are the people that you're relying on. Why is it that a person on a forum should be the lead investigator of this? At least set up a Patreon for that person. You know what I mean? Like, what is this? What world are we living in? 2024, guys. Accountability. Anyways, that's all I got for this video. That's me just shouting out this new post from GoCollect. Great addition to their website, a search feature that can aggregate all the certified numbers, all the previous sales. I think that that's going to be really, really important for inspecting fraudulent activity in the future. But at the same time, GoCollect, let's not remove these wonky sales just yet, because the wonky sales are the things that point us to the shenanigans in the first place. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about this. What do you guys think about the situation? Like, comment, subscribe. See you all in the next one.